Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of At Home with Holmes. Thank you so much for joining us. And as always, we are housekeepers, so we have some housekeeping for you. But this housekeeping it's a good house. We're keeping up a home. So that means we got to take care of it. And what that means is everything that we use to take care of our home is genuinely what we love and value and appreciate. And so to keep up our spiritual home, our body home, and our mind home, we're going to start with our first sponsor, which is Cabin on the Coulee Farm. This is where we go when we want time to read our books, to go on our hikes, and to chop our wood, or just have our conversations amongst ourselves about the end of the world, but at least we're doing it with a really nice view. So you guys can go onto cotc.ca to check out Cabin on the Coulee Farm.
Yes, and they are rated #1 farm stay in Canada, according to trip101.com. And you can book from May to November. It is open season, everybody.
Yeah, and so you can scroll down, and then on the website, you will see that there are 3 options for you, glam sites. The cabin, which holds 6 guests, 3 bedrooms, and 4 beds. It's their largest glam site.
Yeah.
And then you have the Coulee Yurt, which is 5 guests, 3 bedrooms, and 3 beds. Very, very nice interior. It's so nice. And then the Grouse House, which is 4 guests, 1 bedroom, and 2 beds for the smaller experiences.
Yeah.
But you guys will be glad to know that all of these sites now are pet friendly. And that was not always the case when we were doing our previous videos, but now it is. And the reason we know that, and the reason you would know that, is if you checked out Cabin on the Coulee Farm Substack to get all the updates on what's going on with the latest and greatest with this business. And so you guys can get whatever future projects are going forward, and also, funny enough, an interview by the owner of this business with Maddie and I. And you will see that Maddie, we're wearing a particular garment that is...
If you want to get this Alberta jersey, and you guys can find the Alberta jersey on our Buy Me a Coffee, but instead of buying us a coffee, you guys are going to buy us some matcha. And you will see a shop tab on the right. That is where you can get these jerseys to match me and Macy. And if you do, send us a photo. And originally we did these jerseys just for the Alberta patriotism of it.
To infiltrate hockey games.
Yeah. And we were surprised that people from BC wanted to buy these jerseys, and have been, because it turns out it's not about making the money.
It's about sending a message.
And this message is nationwide. And on nationwide, it dawned on me that our mother is actually a real estate agent. So if people want to capitalize on this Alberta patriotism and the investment that is coming here because of the Alberta movement, my mom can help you out with that transition into our province. If you guys are on the other side and you're not really sure, a bit more uncertain, want more ground somewhere in the US, our mom can also help you with the sale out of Alberta. So I will put her email in the description box for people to capitalize on.
Yeah, you guys know that we are hugely family centric. So when you support our mama homes, you support us as well. And we really, really thank you guys for that. So
yes, and on the last product that we wanted to share with you guys is something that we use on a quotidian basis. This is actually our hair care
and our skincare.
We use South Korean product. It's called Reman. And the reason we use this stuff is because South Korea, they regulate their products heavily, contrary to here in the West, where they allow thousands of products because it's proven efficacious, according to people like the FDA. They have thousands of product that you're not allowed to put in because they know it's not efficacious. So they have much higher standards. And in this particular stuff, the 2 main ingredients are byungpool, which is tiger grass, and they use lava water, which is mineral filled water. It is not dead distilled water.
So healthy products, which we love. But yeah, so thank you guys so much for joining us in our preamble and this housekeeping to keep all our houses well kept. And without further ado, we can get on with the episode.
Alrighty, hello everybody. This is another episode of At Home with Holmes, and today we are doing Alberta Youth Edition. We have 2 guests that we met throughout our, I guess, political involvement, and today we want to, first of all, thank you both for coming on, because me and Macy have had a seemingly difficult time trying to get youth to speak out. And it's not even, this podcast, we're definitely going to get into the politics of both of you are very passionate about. But to start, me and Macy want to know a little bit more about your personal stories, why you guys got involved in politics in the first place. What's your family like? Are you long-time Albertans? And then why you guys feel comfortable coming on a show talking with us about this, because a lot of youth don't feel that they want to put their personality or their identity in politics because they don't want the ostracization. And if you guys have experienced that, so we kind of want to go into all of the values. So Macy, anything you want to add before we pick and go one after the other?
No, that sounds pretty good. That sounds like a good starter question, which is just an introduction as to how you guys got even involved in the first place. And that could be any person or people that had sort of an influence on your story and on your journey to getting you here today. So,
Yeah, we'll start with Isaiah and then go to Michael.
Yeah, so I'm Isaiah and I'm 19 years old. One of my passions outside of politics is hospitality and tourism. I'm currently in that class at state right now. And it's really helped me. Before I was on the fence for Alberta independence, but after learning all the cool things we have in Alberta, like we have Badlands, glaciers, Rockies, prairies, and most people in the class want to go work elsewhere in Rome and Greece. And good reason, obviously, but we have it all here. And that class has really helped me admire the beauty of Alberta and just Western Canada in general. So I got involved with politics, I guess, when I was 12, and the People's Party was new. I guess I wasn't formally involved, obviously. I had talked to some candidates, and I couldn't get involved till I was 14. So during the pandemic, during Central Memorial Park rallies, I went and walked out around the stands, and I met some people at the People's Party stand, and they were looking for all kinds of people to get involved. And I was walking with my friend at that time. He would have been 19, and I probably would have been 14. But at that time, there was, I guess, an initiative to set up a youth wing. And there was a lot of people around the country in the PPC that had that same idea. And luckily enough, we all kind of got in contact with each other, and we started the New Generation PPC. So that's kind of my introduction.
I'm already ready to pick into that.
I know, I'm like, okay, I have more questions.
Okay, let's
but
go
we'll
to
on
Michael.
first.
So my name is Michael Harris. Unfortunately, I was not born in Alberta, but the amazing province of British Columbia. I know I was born in the socialist hell, but my family has been in Alberta for generations, since 1905 in the towns of Drumheller and Dahlia. And for our family history, we have been ranchers. We are people who take care of horses, rehabilitate horses, train them for the stampede, and sell them off, or just raise them for fun. What got me into politics specifically was because our family was drove out of the agricultural life by big government, both municipally, provincially, and federally, which made agricultural businesses for small independent farmers that didn't want to industrialize a living hell. And my interest outside of politics, as comes with the farmer's life, is mostly botany and animal husbandry. So dealing with plants, dealing with animals. But my faith and my strength of wanting to get into politics and to fight for people's rights and freedoms came from both the 2021 election and the 2025 election, which I extremely helped the Conservative Party both in Battle River Crowfoot and Calgary Minipore, where I talked to a lot of my constituents, my fellow constituents, and I learned that quite a lot of people are facing the most financially struggling point that they've ever experienced in their entire life. More or less, my riding of Battle River Crowfoot has thousands and thousands of farmers that were just like my family. And many people during the 2025 election told me that even some policies that the Conservative Party of Canada don't want to touch, that aren't going to be touched, like supply management example, if it isn't removed within a decade, those farmers are going to lose their land. They're going to have to sell their land to make profit, or to be able to actually pay off the back taxes they own in property taxes, because they're not making enough money anymore. It's not sustainable enough anymore, because if you want to produce more on your own without government oversight, it's impossible. And without paying an additional fee or paying additional fines, if you don't have that extra money, say goodbye to your heritage. So I'm fighting for the agricultural workers here of Alberta and for landowning families that produce the food that every single person in this province eats. And I want to be in the forefront of it, as the next generation is going to be the ones that take over. The older generation is unfortunately dying out, and it's going to be us, the young people, that have to step up, or else we're going to be left behind with an over-encroaching government that is hell-bent on taking our land and our rights here in our province.
Okay, so that's a very big story currently. Definitely the agricultural overreach. So we'll definitely want to get more into that. Isaiah had alluded to that he is in SAIT taking that course. Are you doing anything in school, Michael, or are you
I
graduated?
am. I am currently finishing up. I'm on my fourth year of my BA in poli sci and IR, which is international relations. But I plan to continue until at least my master's. But I mean, if I want to push my PhD, that's also a possibility as well too. My school keeps trying to push me to enter the grad program, so I might as well do it at this point if I got the time and money for it.
Right? So I like the contrast. It's very funny because me and Macy, we're not affiliated with any university whatsoever, though
Yeah.
we affiliate with people like such as yourselves who are affiliated with university. And yet we have some contrast because Michael, you're involved in, I like how you use the shorter version, the abbreviation poli sci.
Yeah.
And Isaiah, you got into hospitality and tourism. You were 12, Isaiah. So I'm curious, was that largely a family influence for you? Are you alone involved in politics, or did you alone go to those marches, or was it your friend group in school?
Yeah, so actually, I remember dragging my dad out to
Oh,
our PVC rally in 2018 or 2019. And at that time, I guess you couldn't like I didn't know everything I knew now, obviously, and I'm still learning every day. But at those times, especially like 2018, 2019, we're kind of nearing the height of the woke era, and a lot of simple conversations in the classroom that couldn't be touched, like climate change, for example, or the UN. I would see that the party was, talking about this and that they weren't afraid to do that. So I didn't fully understand until I started to do more research, and then you know, the party is, but the party platform is one of like the most genius things I've read, and I'm very happy to be involved with that.
well, I'm glad you got your dad involved at least. That is definitely something. So, was it a friend that introduced the PPC to you, or you just.
Like, how did you hear
No,
of
like,
PPC?
so essentially, like, one day I was literally just watching TV at my grandparents' house, and there's a French guy, like I saw on the news, some guy started his own party
Oh,
and left
wow.
conservative, and I honestly, again, only knew little things, but like to someone growing up hearing all these things in the classroom, and it was almost like forced on you. I wanted to do some almost thinking for myself, so I went to go look at other, I guess, solutions, and the People's Party actually had like the most common sense one on those issues, right? So yeah, I found out by myself. Like I was literally just watching TV, and that's kind of funny. But
I'm curious. Did you do any? So you said you went to go look for yourself. Did you do any prior digging into the UCP's platform at all, and then make the contrast to PPC and kind of go like, I think that this one makes more sense or resonates with me, or maybe because it's less enmeshed into the system overall of two-party system, maybe you were like,
yeah,
UCP just
yeah.
like
So
seems sus for all we know, like.
yeah, no. Historically speaking, actually, we know that it's the young people that are willing to push against the establishment, and I think, you know, that's obviously Michael's in a non like we're doing the fight against the establishment here, right? And I think that's something that I guess we'll get into later. I think that the independence movement can really use that and rally up the youth using that. But I guess the People's Party had the most. Again, it was outspoken on all these issues. I guess so it was kind of going against the status quo and the norm. And I think a lot of young people growing up, a lot of us, maybe some of us, don't get along with teachers often or police officers, or I know some people out there who maybe don't have the best relationship with their parents, and it's an authority thing, right? So I think that's something that the independence movement can utilize, but that's something that I've noticed, like especially after the pandemic, if you think things were bad before the pandemic, and then the
Right.
pandemic happened. Ask, like, if you've ever really asked someone my age to do something, chances are you know what I'm talking about. And if you know what I'm talking about, then you've just met the modern day political playing field. And I think, again, we should utilize that.
That's interesting. Okay, and then Michael, what about you and your political involvement? So your family, being when did you come back? First of all, I mean, come from BC. Did you grow up in Alberta your whole life or half? When did you come here?
So my mother and my father met in British Columbia, and that's why they lived in British Columbia. But a majority of my family still lives in Alberta. So anytime we had like Christmases, or we come for summer, or there's a birth in the family, I'm always here in Drumheller. I'm always here in Alberta. But because I was underage, my family was still living in British Columbia. I predominantly lived most of my young life in British Columbia through their school system. However, though, the moment I turned 18 years old, I wanted to come back to the mother country. I wanted to get out of, and I quote, the socialist hell of British Columbia, where, it was impossible to buy a home. Like in the Nanaimo where I was living, it was almost $1 million just to buy a simple townhouse. It was unsustainable for a young person to live. And I wanted to get into politics. So I wanted to get into politics and education. And VIU and UVic on Vancouver Island didn't offer the proper programs. Just so happens that also in Alberta, you got U of C, one of the best political science programs and IR programs in all of Canada. So I was naturally drawn to the city here in Calgary. So I'm here to stay for the rest of my life. Alberta is my family's home. It is my home, and it will be the hopefully home of my children here in this province.
Okay, now I find this
Yeah.
funny because both of you are involved in federal politics, and yet I've heard, Isaiah, you've alluded to Alberta independence, and Michael, you're also talking about this passion for the mother home. And I want to get your guys' perspective on that, because one thing, me and Macy got involved also provincially before we, I attended the People's Party of Canada. That was actually my family's first rally, was attending one that happened here in Alberta where Maxime came, and I got to give him a little drawing that I did of him in Peterson, because like Isaiah, you alluded to, that was the transition of the height of the woke era, and the PPC was seeming to fight against that, and Jordan Peterson was obviously one of those big voices for young men such as yourselves. So that was kind of my family's introduction. But once we realized we could get involved provincially, we tried to go more local and local. So after provincially, we went municipal politics, seeing if we could get some better local councillors on for our cities. So what is that something that's irreconcilable to you guys? The federal versus the provincial. Why are you guys involved in federal politics? Do you guys actually believe there is a say? Do you guys only involve with federal politics and not so much locally because you think, like, what's your guys' perspective on that? Yeah, Michael, go ahead.
Well, I work in all levels of politics. I help one of my friends, his name's Jonas Smith. He's making a municipal political party here in Calgary, Alberta. I have worked provincially with now with Dan McLean, he's running in Calgary Shaw, and helping out with the UCP. But obviously, because now I am a deputy leader of a political party, it kind of does force me into a federal box where I have to stay predominantly in the federal scope. For me, though, a lot of the gripes that a lot of the generation that I've heard from both people on my campus and people from my old high school and the people that I've talked to in my constituencies is that a lot of the blame that people are facing nowadays is on the federal government's hands. We have a good provincial government and we can reform it. There's a million things we can do to reform it. And that's why I attend every single UCP AGM that happens here in our province to make those policy changes, to help hopefully reform our provincial government to be better. But the problem is that we have, if this sounds a little radical, a kind of evil government that we have back in Ottawa that does not care about the people here in Alberta, that they're willing to sacrifice the people living here to keep their affluent nature out east. So for me, the actual big fight is the fight against the federal government, because I can go talk to the premier right now at the next AGM or send an email and my voice will be listened to. But Mark Carney, he doesn't want to listen to me. He doesn't want to listen to the people at my university. We get a petition to end the carbon tax, as an example. Tens of thousands of signatures from students across this country. They throw in the trash. They don't even listen to it. They don't listen to what we have to say. So to me, the battle will always remain in the federal government. It doesn't matter if we separate or not. The battle is to support Western Canadians. And until Ottawa starts listening, then I'm here to support all angles, whether it be separation, reform municipally, reform provincially, or to take on the federal government directly. I'm 20 years old and I don't care. I will do that to help defend the people of my province.
Well said. That's definitely a sentiment me and Macy. I'm currently, how old am I? I'm 23, and then Macy is 21. And we've talked to a fair amount of young people that even though they share some of the sentiments, they will not speak out. And I think it's because they're not embodying the thing that you just emphasized, which is the fact that if you want a house, as you alluded to, if you want a family, you are not exactly putting your best foot forward in order to reach those goals, because we have so many policies, and with the even policies that are not necessarily done here in Canada, but down in Europe with all the Eurodollar system, the UK, then we have the inflation. So there's so many things that are going against us that you can't just sit and hope that things will go better and you will be able to take your goals of having a family and it'll just magically manifest. You actually have to put a best foot forward.
I have more questions to go off of you, Michael, but we do want to ask Isaiah the same question of why federal politics as well.
So the PPC is in a really unique position right now. I don't know if you guys knew, but Alberta Independence is actually part of our platform right now. And I don't know if you guys have read Corey Morgan's book, The Sovereign's Handbook.
Great plug.
He talks a lot of, yeah, it's an amazing book. I love Corey. He talks a lot about the winning conditions and creating the winning conditions. And I think it's really important that's not just in Alberta. I think it's really important that we bring that across Canada. Outside of Alberta, unfortunately, we know a lot of Canadians are still paying attention to the mainstream media. This is really evident actually after this last election we had, which should have been fought on real issues like immigration and housing, but instead was fought on fear factor against Trump. So we know a lot of Canadians are still tapped into the mainstream media. The PPC right now is trying to do that fight across Canada because we know, historically speaking, that Canada's constitution really wasn't meant to be changed, and that Canadian prime ministers have spent their entire legacies trying to do so. The only peaceful way of changing the constitution is having a constitutional crisis. And the PPC is telling that to all the provinces right now. If we can break the constitution with a yes vote, then the rest of the provinces could take advantage of that. And then maybe they can get free from the shackles of Ottawa, however that might be.
It's a really, really interesting strategy. As somebody that our family kind of put federal politics on the down low, trying to figure out just the local games, because there's so much to figure out, just even being involved in your constituency association that's right in your neighborhood, let alone on federal. So, I mean, kudos to you guys. But that was one thing I was pleasantly surprised that even despite the federal game and them trying to be under this one big banner, Unite Canada, the PPC and Maxime Bernier putting out all those letters and then the videos that he posted about saying that it makes sense for even a Canadian-wide perspective. And that's something Macy and I, as people that look into Canadian history, we can absolutely get on board with that message, because we have been saying this whole time, this Alberta independence thing, it's not just about Alberta. This is a downstream consequence. This is the way Canada was written and raised as a general constitution. And so that's definitely an interesting point. Now, Macy, I know you want to jump on.
Yeah, so I have kind of questions for both of you, but we'll start with Michael since he went first. So when you're talking about federal and then independence, and you're alluding to the fact that it's like one of the major fights is still going to be on the federal, whether you separate or whether you don't. Mm-hmm. Okay, so play out the hypotheticals for me if we were to separate. What I've been trying to tell people, even in like the UCP that are involved in federal politics, that, hey, if we separate, we still need a system of government. And so you wouldn't be completely out of a job, and their brains just instantly go like, oh yeah, I guess not. And I'm like, duh. But anyways, so I'm just wondering.
Make a new country.
Yeah, and I'm wondering, I guess I've been talking about it on our channel for those of us that watch that, like, this has been kind of one of the best thought experiments, personally, in my opinion, for any age group, but particularly for our age group, because now we have to actually think about, what does a prosperous nation look like? Mm-hmm. How do nations become prosperous? And what do we have to look out for? So I guess on minor scale, if you have done any thinking about the sort of system that you feel would be best to adopt if we were to become independent, because you are involved in federal politics, what has that kind of led you in terms of your thought experiment and some hypotheses? And you can even admit to things that you feel like you don't know that we should start looking into, because
Right.
that's also part of
Yeah.
trying to grow too.
Well, there's a big distinction between like what I would want for the future of Alberta and a possible country of an Alberta like republic, and what the people might want. I fundamentally believe that the decision of secession is, and this is core in our party platform, is that actually I have a sign here that says this same thing. Independence. Independence is a very big thing with us, with libertarians. And so we believe the idea of separation and secession, as an example, should be held by the people. So I support the referendum full and like
Right.
for people to decide. And I think it should be the same way if we actually do secede with making a new nation. We should have a national committee. We should have a national like conference where all the people of our province can come together, left or right, to decide what the country should be like. Should it be a parliamentary republic? That's something that I would like. I think we should adopt more of the Westminster systems, but be free from the shackles of the monarchy, as an example. I know some people that are interested in joining the states. I don't want that, but there should be a voice for it. There should be a vote for it. There's some people that might want to just be autonomous from Canada. The secession will take years, and there's plenty of time for us to have a natural conference or for us to hash out these meetings with the population of Alberta. And I think that will be absolutely mandatory as we go towards making our new nation, having the voices of Albertans heard. So that way, we don't really create a system that is too far away from the people. It should be bottom up, not top down, in my opinion.
No, that echoes Eva Chipiuk. Eva Chipiuk, she did, when Macy and I participated in the 6 pillars of a nation that David Redman had laid out, and he was a former colonel for Canada. Part of the thing was on good governance. That's one of the basic pillars that every good nation needs, and Eva Chipiuk spoke for that episode, and a lot of the questions that she was given, she echoed your sentiments, which was, here's what maybe I think, but I know people need to have conversations about it more so. And that is a good reality. To Macy's point about what we don't know, Alberta's never done this before. Now, there are many places and countries that have separated within the last year alone. But this is the first time for us. And if we want to do it more successfully, then we do need to have these conversations and just include all the voices so we can play with what would work and what wouldn't work, because that's the negotiation that actually forms a country. Isaiah, the same question.
So again, like Michael said, I have my own vision for what I would want an independent Alberta to look like, and yeah, I would also, I think, I mean, we all know it's gonna be a long process, right? So there's a lot of different solutions or proposals that there are out there. I know that there's some people out there drafting a white paper. So I would just encourage people, I guess, in a free and independent Alberta, the people taking the responsibility of shaping that. I would warn them not to make the same mistakes that we have here in Canada. I guess a lot of even not just in terms of representation, but just in policy as well. We don't want to sell ourselves out day one, because then that kind of ruins the entire reason why we're doing this. So I guess the structure of an independent Alberta, that's for the people to decide. But I think we need to have a responsible government no matter what. And, I think that looks like a small government that doesn't really interfere into our lives as often, but one that makes sure that we're set up to be prosperous.
Now, I'm curious for Macy and I have spoken because we're on this Alberta independence thing now, and you guys alluding to that, your actions are showing, because if I'm playing devil's advocate to you guys, some people that have criticized me and Macy, they brought up the fact that I love that you guys are involved and, you're being politically engaged as youth. You are looking beyond your daily problems, which is how to manage the relationships or your friend groups and your popularity. You're actually looking at the state of a country, which is a very big thing to do. But they don't necessarily agree with how you guys think the solutions are. And it's funny because you guys are, despite advocating for an independent, sovereign Alberta, you guys are also still involved federally, meaning you still have your stake in the game within Canada. And that's something that people might overlook when hearing you guys speak about independence. They might, plaster all of the usual labels upon you, but then not noticing that both of you guys are actively trying to still do things towards Canada. And I want you guys to elaborate on this. Why is it not one or the other? Why do you guys see this Alberta independence thing as part of the broader Canada game? And I mean from your guys' youth perspective, because I'm trying to understand how other youth, how we can have the conversation and get them thinking that this is things that may seem completely opposite, like hence Canada versus Alberta. That's the dichotomy right now. But I'm not seeing that from your guys' demonstration. Why? Let's start with Michael.
Because the fight for liberty is eternal. The fight for freedom is not free. It continues no matter what state of government you find yourself in. You need to have people that are prepared to fight it on both lens. Even if we have an independent Alberta, it's very likely, like as Isaia was saying, if you don't have a responsible government that leads a new Alberta, you could just end up having another tyrannical government that just takes 50% of your income and subjugates the people living in there. You need to have a good base of people that's willing to fight no matter what. And I'm that type of guy. I don't like to put all my eggs in one basket. There's a very big possibility that we don't win this secession round here for Alberta independence. And we're still going to be dealing with the people in Ottawa, the same people that are restricting the farmers of my riding, the same people that are still taking 50% of the income of the people of my riding, the same people that have Bill C9 and Bill C22, which is going to access our technology without warrants, that are going to take away our freedom of religion, freedom of speech. So we need to be prepared to, as I've been trying to create with the Libertarian Party of Canada, kind of like a stronghold, a block of Western Canada, if you will, that if we don't have secession, if we aren't able to create a responsible government out here in Alberta and create a new country, then we need to be able to dig in and prepare ourselves against Ottawa. We can't just say, oh, well, we lost the referendum. I guess it's time to lay down our hands and let Ottawa, take us over again. No, we have to be prepared to fight back. And our party is prepared for 2029, regardless if we have a secession or not, to take on the Eastern government out in Ottawa. And I think that should be important for everybody. Everyone should think of the alternatives. If we don't win, what's next? Well, we have to fortify ourselves, or else we're going to be in a lot of trouble when these bills start passing the House of Commons.
Yeah, so I would say a lot of these problems start at the top of the feds. A lot of these, a lot of the precursors to Alberta independence started at the top. And I think what I'm trying to do and what the People's Party is trying to do is put the ball in their court and see what they're going to do with it. I know that, a lot of people have been saying that this is what the Premier has been doing with the MOUs and I guess the negotiations she's done with Ottawa. And it's kind of a way of, depending on how you look at it, maybe she's just trying to expose them that, hey, they're not actually going to do anything, right? So I think it's really important that we put the ball in their court, obviously, all the time. When someone says something, believe them. And, also, again, I'll go back to the point where I think it's really important that we create the winning conditions across Canada, because right now outside of Alberta independence is really not as popular. So I think it's important that, if we can almost capture the atmosphere of the Freedom Convoy and show the rest of Canada that Alberta, once you were there at the convoy, we all knew it was about politics, but you actually kind of forgot as the hours went on. And I want to bring that Albertan hospitality and put that on display for the rest of Canada to see. I know in the People's Party, our associations are by province, and a lot of the people in Alberta are very closely tight-knit together. So that definitely helps out. And I do, there's a lot of proud Albertans, there's a lot of proud Canadians, there's a lot of proud Albertans and Canadians. So, we're all coming together and really trying to show Albertan hospitality.
Okay, so I have I don't know if it's necessarily a question, but I just have a thought process, and then I want to get your guys' thoughts on my said thought process, which is So Maddie and I were invited to speak at one of the Chris Scott town halls. I forget. Let's Talk Alberta, and we were having a conversation alluding to Michael what you were saying about, well, if it doesn't go through, then what? Because some people are putting all their eggs in one basket. For all we know,
Dumb idea.
they might be like, okay, if we don't get this question or if it doesn't go through, I'm just gonna leave Alberta altogether. Which, I mean, hey, fair enough. I'm not gonna. That's neither here nor there, but I was thinking about it and I was like, well, a lot of the times what I am been witnessing, even in being in constituency associations, being affiliated with in like the UCP and just people in general that are maybe not diehard UCPs, but they're people that want to be involved and they're people that want to make a difference. They're like, we can't let the NDP in, like we have to stop it, like no matter what, this has got to be the goal. And to me, I'm like, we aren't playing enough our worst case scenario. As in worst case scenario, if they got in, what are you going to do? Like, are you just going to fold over like a lawn chair, or what is going to be your action? Because if they were to get in, and some of the policies that are even coming downstream from Mark Carney and from the federal government, right? It's like if these things get in as they have been, or if let's say, I guess our, again, the NDP get in, our provincial politics is a little bit skewered and all of that. It's like, are we prepared kind of on the ground level to face that? And what I mean by face that is like quite literally physically face that, because even with the American war on independence, I say war on independence because, but before that, they even started getting onto the physical ground level of conflict. And I'm not advocating for conflict. I'm just trying to actually say, people, are we thinking about that? Because of course, no one wants to be pointing their guns in any direction. Because I don't advocate for people dying at all. But at the same time, what in Patrick Henry's speech, he talks about how they went through all of the political levers, every single one. And then they got shut down every single time. And as Isaiah, you were alluding to, like even perhaps the MOUs that are coming out, it could be because Danielle's either a shill or because she's trying to show that, hey, the federal government's still not going to listen. As in, again, going through all the political levers and we keep getting hit with a no. The more no's we get hit with, the more people might be able to see. So that's always a brighter side to look at. But at the same time, once all of the levers are kind of hit and things are still being told no, as you guys have been alluding to this whole time, it's what's going to be the action. And I feel like that is some thought process that not a lot of people are thinking about. And then something else that I'm also curious to get your guys' thoughts on is in regards to even sort of like the Privy Council and this now the new Lieutenant Governor General that's come in. What are your guys' thoughts on that as well? Because this beast, like Mark Carney was not elected, he was selected. You guys were talking about, Isaiah, the Trump kind of weird election syndrome that was going on and how so many people are watching the mainstream media. And I'm like, I don't necessarily know or think if it was just people are brainwashed and watching the media. I'm like, I think that's the show. And I think that more so he's Bilderberg Group, he's Chatham House, he's a Bank of England. It's like this guy was selected and bred for being in the position that he's in. I don't think that this was an election. I think it was a selection the whole time. And they had no intention of letting anybody else in. And even at that, do you guys think that had Pierre Poilievre gotten in, it would have saved us and saved Canada and more specifically Alberta? Because even then, I'm not sure if that's necessarily the case as well, because again, there's so many things that are just being said no. They breed these people from like day one. And then even in Corey Morgan's book that you alluded to, there's been examples where just because the UCP was in doesn't mean that Alberta is where it wants to be standing, hence why we're here where we are today. And I know that was a lot, so we'll just start with whoever wants to kind of pluck at that first.
Okay, Michael.
I can go first. There's a couple of questions, so this might be a longer answer. I hope you don't mind. I'm not a proponent of violent revolution. I don't know if that was the first question you were talking about. I prefer peaceful revolution. You can join the communists if you want to overthrow the government. But I will say one thing: if people are wanting to, this is their last opportunity to, because coincidentally, right before the Alberta referendum, the government is planning on adding their new section. I think it was like Section 8, where they are taking away, I think, 150 different variants of firearms, which includes 2 million people here in Alberta that are going to lose access to it. So afterwards, that route becomes impossible. But as I said before previously, the idea right now is that we don't have all our eggs in one basket. We are preparing to build our national Western Front here in Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, and British Columbia against Ottawa. And if that means running principled candidates that aren't afraid to ask tough questions and to bring tough policies to the national level, we should. And I don't think anything would have changed if Pierre Poilievre would have won. I supported him during 2025, and I supported him in 2023 when he was running to become the leader of the party, because I thought he was going to be that outsider that was going to change the status quo and fight against the lobbyists and those people that, like the money people that really control the Conservative Party. And he got embedded in it. And now, especially considering he lost, he's going to get even more embedded into it. So I don't personally think he is our person to save us. That's why I joined the Libertarian Party. That's why I'm helping to run it now. And you have to think about optics. I personally agree with Isaiah that is a little bit of Trump phobia, I will say, for the reason why Mark Carney won in the last election. I've talked to so many people in the New Democratic Party and even people in the Liberal Party itself. I visited just a friend that graduated yesterday that is part of the Liberal Party, but really doesn't like Mark Carney and says exactly what you said, that they were planted as, in her words, as kind of like a counterweight against Trump. So as far as I've seen in politics, it's kind of a waiting game at this current moment, where Mark Carney is having this immense popularity, all this immense power, because really there's not a damn person in this country that can really challenge him with Trump being in office. But once Trump is gone, which he most likely will, because I don't know if he's going to try to do some shenanigans or something, a third term, or if someone other Republican wins in 2028, but his time is limited. He will be gone. We have a somewhat strong new Democratic Party that's slowly paying off their debt and their bills. The Conservative Party is failing to convince people why they're different than the last three Conservative leaders that were in charge. They haven't changed on equalization. They haven't changed on supply management. They haven't changed on immigration. They haven't changed on fighting back against the foreign drugs that are coming into our country, like fentanyl. I've had so many people in my friend groups that have actually, I'm not even kidding you, have overdosed and died because of the opioid epidemic. So if we have apathy from our government that is unwilling to change, whether it be in the opposition or the people that are in Ottawa, we need a third option. I think that's why me and Isaiah are really here today, because we're trying to offer that common sense solution that isn't held back by lobbyists, not held back by moneymakers. And the time for Mark Carney in power is very much limited. He has a couple of years here to build his base, build his loyalty while Trump's in power. But once he's gone, it will be like an arena for politics here in Canada. That's what, in my opinion, that's how it's going to go, because you're going to have all these Western Canadians that are furious about what that has been doing the last, like, now we'll be at that point almost 15 years of Liberal government. People will be furious at Pierre Poilievre for not changing his beliefs or his ideals. A lot of people in my writing are mad at him because he promised that he was going to stay in Battle River Crowfoot, and he's only come back once for Christmas. So it's about building a national brand. I think that's what Isaiah is doing. That's what we're doing. And we're going to run a full slate of candidates for 2029. And we're going to bring the heat to Ottawa 100%.
Okay, Isaiah, that big loaded question.
Yeah, so again, I do think that it's really important that we get this, at least try our absolute best to get this done, because there's really no other peaceful political solution other than, getting involved in all levels of government, whether municipal, provincial, federal. I think not all of us have the time that we have, but I think it's still really important to do that. I also think it's worth noting that I brought up earlier that I was in tourism, and actually a really interesting point is that Max, as Minister of State, he oversaw tourism in his portfolio, so I thought that was pretty cool. But another thing that kind of that the tourism has led me to is really, oftentimes when the Alberta independence movement is fought, it's fought on economic grounds, and that's obviously, we're all excited. We know that an independent Alberta can manage its affairs responsibly, and I also think, though, that it is worth noting that Alberta is just geographically and culturally different from the rest of the provinces. I think that'll get us across the finish line, if anything will. We know our values in Alberta are completely different from the ones out east. For example, the Quebec independence movement, They could be saying the same things as us. They could be saying they have a ton of resources they could just go out and get, um, but they're not. They're not giving that golden ticket to independence. I think that if I'm not too well versed in Quebec politics, but I think if they went to the people and said, "Hey guys, we're going to work hard for our money here, and we'll be independent, and we'll be prosperous." They're not saying that though. Here in Alberta, we're more willing to say, "Hey guys, we're going to get our hands dirty. We're going to make money, and we're not going to take welfare checks from anyone else." So I think that there's going to be a balance there. I think Alberta needs to learn from the Quebec independence movement, and Quebec needs to learn from the Alberta independence movement. If they can both kind of plug themselves into each other, I think like we might have a good shot. And Pierre Poilievre is not the solution. I mean I knew that. It was pretty obvious. A lot of people overlook that it was a conservative government that changed the equalization formula, and not just a conservative government. It was none other than Premier Jason Kenney who oversaw that. So a lot of these problems actually started with a big fat government in Ottawa that thought that they had Alberta on board. They took Alberta for granted. I mean, I don't know how many times. I mean, I've been alive for like 3 prime ministers, but like I know this has happened long before, right? So when are people gonna, and again, I think that's why this generation's equipped to do the fight, because we're not really too worried to flip the page, and start something new. But the Conservative Party is going to be the biggest opponent of Alberta independence. They can't afford to lose us, and I think they're not our friends. They're not even willing to offer the solutions, and the things that they've come out saying the last like 2 days have been things that the People's Party has been saying since like 2018, 2019, before we ever dreamt this would happen, right? So we've been saying the same thing for the longest time. I know Michael has been fighting on supply management. I know his party, that's a really big proponent of his party as well, and they've been doing that fight for a while. So
1973.
yeah,
Yeah.
the People's Party, the Libertarian Party, they give people like us a chance. I've heard many stories. A lot of us have tried with conservatives to get involved, but the People's Party, they've taken us in, and I've gone on 2 conferences. They made sure I got out there completely on their dollar, and I got to meet many like-minded people my age. They gave us a chance, and I think the future is really with parties like us who, if we even just got 1 seat in parliament or 2, we could have changed this entire minority parliament situation, and we would have held the balance of power. So I think we are really the future of Canadian politics.
You guys bring up a practical example that Macy and we attended the gala dinner that was held at MRU with Daniel Smith, and some people were offered the chance to ask Daniel questions. And at it, we were talking to some younger individuals who are on a provincial constituency association board, and then they were also on the UCP federal board. And I was curious because I wanted to know the difference. And they validated the fact that on federal boards, it's mostly older people. There are not a lot of younger people on federal boards. And it's not the same sort of activity, which I find funny, in my brain, because a federal board, you're running a country. I figured there'd be more people involved. But the federal boards there's less work compared to what provincial boards are doing. Even being on ours is very active. You plan fundraisers all the time, and then you have just volunteer events. You're trying to help your neighborhood CA to see if even if they don't have a UCP riding, you're trying to see, okay, can we help them just get more memberships, involve with their community and their neighborhoods more? And it's not like that, is what I've got feedback wise from the federal boards. And you guys are validating that, the fact that there are people that tried to get involved with the Pierres and then just the federal Conservative Party, and it doesn't have the same engagement. It doesn't have the same youth activity. I want a little bit of your guys's, I want to say, encouragement to other young people. If they're involved currently in the thinking that Pierre or the federal Conservative Party is the answer, or they have friends. You guys, even Michael, you have a pretty diverse array of friends, clearly having friends in the liberal, and me and Macy do too. We have friends that identify as communists and all that jazz. But what is your guys' advice to them? What do you guys say to other youth to get involved? Do you guys just give them the party line to say, like, come join my party? Or do you, like, what is your guys' message to other young people that are either not involved or they're struggling in the federal conservatives? Yeah, you get my drift, Michael.
First thing I would tell them, I'm not trying to propagandize here. I'm not trying to get people to join my party. I will 100% if they're interested, but you have to realize, this is what I'm going to tell people. You have to see what you truly want out of working with politics. Are you doing it for the money? Are you doing it to do change? Are you doing it just to work in the Conservative Party? Why are you in politics? And if you're going to want to work with the Conservative Party, you especially need to know what you want and where you want to go. Because be prepared. If you're going to work with the Conservative Party, I'll tell you why there's not young people working in the Conservative Party, because they're going to tell you to shut up. They don't want to hear what you have to say. They've had solutions that have worked for decades, according to them. They have lobbyists that they have to answer to. They don't want somebody that's going to come in and say their opinion or have reform or change. So if you want to work within the Conservative Party, you can make growth within it. But if the growth that they want is the growth that they're expecting from you. So be prepared to temper your opinions. Don't come in running as a Rambo and expect that you're going to change the system, that just because you're smarter, then they're going to give you a chance, because they won't. They did the same thing to me. They did the same thing to many of my fellow university students that wanted that exact same thing. And it's going to kill them. It's going to kill their own party, because they don't want to bring young people. They don't want to bring in differing opinion. Because if you bring in a differing opinion, that's scary. That's going to get them in trouble. They're going to lose voters. So if you have an idea for independence, once again, the sign isn't just independence for a nation, it's also individual independence. If you want something different, where your opinion is going to be valued, where we can strengthen your own skills, where you're not told to go through a party line, there are other alternatives. Doesn't have to necessarily be me. It could be Isaiah's party. We've been around since 1973 doing it, and we bring in new people because new people keep getting frustrated with the same old system, and the new generation comes in to bring it. We'll help you. I work with Students for Liberty for the longest time that did exactly the same thing with outside of a party line. Do you feel dissatisfied? Or do you feel like you can't sharpen your skills? Well, here we are, here to train you. Isaiah's party is going to do it. Same with us. We are here to recruit the next generation. That if you feel that you want to have a stronger voice in politics without being held back, there are other options. And I ask you to look inside yourself. What do you truly want out of politics? If you just want the money, you want to be a lapdog, you can go work with the Conservatives. You're going to find a great career. But if you don't want that, you will be shuffled out. Even if you don't think you are, you will be shuffled out. And there are other alternatives where you can build your skills without being valued less than an.
Yeah, definitely. Even me and Macy, we want to encourage. We have friends that they didn't know anything about politics. They don't know their local MLA. They don't know what their CA is. But being involved on a CA board, it is an easy way to just get your voice in. And even me and Macy, if the NDP were in, we'd try and get on our board still. Of course, it'd be much difficult because they would gatekeep the hell out of us. Yeah. But the point is, be involved however you can. And that is definitely what I'm hearing.
And even provincially as well, too. Like the UCP is way more different than the federal Conservatives, because this is exactly the point I was trying to get across. The provincial UCP is very grassroots. They get their donors from the bottom up. They get people from the bottom up to join their ranks. A lot different than the federals. So you'll have a lot bigger success working with the provincial UCP because they're grassroots. And that's why I think a lot of us, even Isaiah, like even though we come from, all three of us are from different parties, we still support the UCP, because at the end of the day, they are welcoming those ideas. They are welcoming different opinions. Whether you are a libertarian or you're a conservative or you're a progressive conservative, you can find a home in those parties.
Okay, and Isaiah?
Yeah, I think Michael really got it there with, you really got to examine what you want to accomplish in politics. And I honestly, unless you're, I don't know, willing to be some backbencher who parties at Nicholas Street all the time and never actually gets anything done and just signs papers and whatnot, then maybe the Conservative Party is for you. But if you're really trying to actually make a difference, I mean, that sounds so cliche, but I mean, even just a small change here in Canada would be monumental and huge. We also, I think it's important to look at what the Conservatives have done. And, this is a party that I know we mentioned, kind of backdooring some of the younger people, but this is also a party who purposefully rigged nominations in this last election just to have these people cross the floor or just MPs cross the floor, right? So they kept it tight knit. At the end of the day, it didn't matter. Now we have a liberal majority, and like so they don't really even believe in the values of democracy if they're willing to just select candidates, override that process, and then 3 or 6 months later we have a majority government because of that. And I think it's also worth looking at what we have been doing, the People's Party as well, or just any of these other small parties. I know for us, we have been talking about equalization all across the country. Doesn't matter, Quebec, Atlantic Canada, Alberta. We've been talking about that since the founding of the party. Supply management as well. Max could have been prime minister, but he didn't want to give up that fight for Canadian dairy farmers, right? So, I think it's really worth looking at, I guess, the principles of yourself and what you want to accomplish. For the PPC, those principles, those founding principles are freedom, fairness, responsibility, and respect. And a lot of our policies, all of our policies mimic that in any way. So if you like the platform, if you can adhere to freedom, fairness, responsibility, and respect while representing the party, then you have a home with us, and we'll take you in. And the People's Party, this is the party of the people. I know it's literally in the name, but yeah, like we just want to bring in whoever we can as long as they believe in our platform. Then we'll support them to make that difference.
A big thing that I definitely want to get from both of you guys is, Michael, you clearly have some inside knowledge about the agricultural industry and the struggles because of your family background, but you've also alluded to some of the bills that have been going on the federal
Yeah.
level. And then Isaiah, you have alluded to the Sovereigntist Handbook by Corey Morgan, and other historical, you said, look at what the UCP is doing. That requires historical knowledge. You have to go and do research in terms of those things. And I want to know, what are your guys' sources? I mean, so Isaiah, you found out about the PPC from TV. Is TV how you get your knowledge from here on in? Do you guys listen to podcasts? Are you getting it from conversations just from attending political events? How are you guys updating your information to continue your guys' discernment and to continue diversifying your knowledge in terms of politics? Let's start with Isaiah, go to Michael.
That's a really good question. I think more people should ask that. Just in general, actually, I I try to keep a wide variety of ways I get my news and whatnot. Even just hanging out with people like Michael and having that little network is very helpful. But also, yeah, I mean, CBC, mainstream media, or Western Standard, or just like Rebel News, newspapers. Also, I think people should still read physical media. I don't do that as often anymore, but I definitely don't lock myself in a little space to know what I know. I try to learn all perspectives. I'm learning every day. I'm going to learn so much. So yeah.
I have friends in every single political party that's in this country. Even this new, it was Unity Party, but I guess now the Reforge Party with Grant Abraham. I have a lot of friends that we talk. We're friends with each other. We talk about each other's policies. I know exactly what the other parties are thinking and what they're wanting to do. What's their vision? I'm always out there talking to the people in my community, standing on committees, or just going down to town hall and arguing with Jeremy Farkas, as an example. You know, I during school time, my favorite idea and my favorite pastime is that I have 3 monitors here on my desk, and while I'm doing schoolwork, I'll have the House of Commons live stream open on my second monitor to hear about what they're talking about. If I want to know more about these bills, I don't just listen to some TikToker. I go and I read the damn thing. I want to know what the exact wording of the bill says. And honestly, it comes from my experience with working with the Taxpayer Federation of Canada. Great individuals, amazing people that go into your bills and to how much the government is spending and using your money. But I use those skills to look at policy, because sometimes the government really likes to hide what they're wanting to do with hundreds of pages of, like I said, blah, 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 like just random ass stuff. But really, you got to be looking at the fine print, because when it has stuff like, as an example, in Bill C-22, the new Electronic Security Act that they're wanting to do in this country here, they say it's about, oh, we're making sure the kids are not seeing stuff that they shouldn't be, or ensuring that there's not like terrorism or something online. But when you see that it says that you can affect any Canadian, that the government or CSIS can take control and access the data of any electronic device in Canada without a warrant, that's cause for concern. And people wouldn't know that by just seeing Online Security Act or saying that we're here to support the children. You have to actually read the source material. I'm telling you, anybody that listens to this podcast and everybody that's here speaking tonight, go and do your own research, even if it takes extra time. Read what they're actually saying, because I guarantee you it's going to be a lot worse than you think it is, because the government, unfortunately, is not here to help us, whether it be like Bill C-9 and saying it's just here to protect religious minorities. Well, you're getting rid of religious protections as well into it. You have very wordy language in here that can be misinterpreted to give you all sorts of control. That you say for Bill C-5, that you can give any corporation unlimited power over other corporations and creating an unfair market. Or Bill C-22, where you now don't need a warrant to access people's data. That information comes from direct sources, and you can find that out by seeing those direct sources, which take advantage of public information. We live in a great country that has access to free information, everything. What the government spends, how it spends it, where the money is coming from, how their policies are, what the policies are going to give them power to do. All that freedom of information is accessed because of our Constitution. So take advantage of that freedom of information and go do your own research, because that has helped me. It's helped many people in our party. Helped Corey Morgan's draft his books, and it will help the next generation towards seeing truly what this country is going to change for all of us.
Yeah, one thing that I want to say again is thank you both for coming on this podcast. Macy and I do a lot of podcasts to get our information, but one thing that we've also learned from experience, and I'm guessing is the same for you guys, as both of you have alluded to, is just going to events, town halls. You meet people that agree, they don't agree. Even if on face, for example, Macy and I have been to a lot of Let's Talk Alberta town halls, and we learn something new every time. You'd figure it'd be the same stuff over and over again, but then somebody comes that has a different perspective and they're throwing in that little left field ball. So definitely gonna see you guys in person more, and any youth watching this or parents with youth that are here in Alberta, send your kids to some events. Even if you on face you're not sure what it's going to be about, it's an opportunity to meet people and get different perspectives and learn something about a local constituency or your neighborhood that's right next door that you wouldn't have otherwise. And so we'll definitely, me and Macy, have youth that we want to invite more to events, just to get them even engaging with the community more, to learn more. If they don't know how they want to be involved in politics, because even me and Macy, we do not want to be career politicians, there is so much you can learn by just engaging with the community, which both of you, that's how both of you started seemingly, and then grew from there. So I want to thank you both for coming on. And if you guys have...
Well, thank you for inviting us.
Right.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Yeah,
Good
we
opportunity.
really should be thanking you, honestly. I love the opportunity to come and speak on these podcasts.
So for those of you who want to get to know more of Isaia and Michael Harris's platforms, you can go onto Instagram at New Generation PPC to check out where Isaia is, but also just some of the work that they are doing. And then you can also go to Michael Harris at Instagram 2525 to see what it is that he's been up to as well.
We'll have you on again, because me and Macy didn't really touch on some of the idiosyncrasies of the knowledge, even with the agriculture industry, which would be great. And then if you, both of you have anybody, friends that you believe you would want to bring on, if they are willing to talk, definitely send this their way, because we want to have more roundtable discussions. It happens to be nice that both of you guys are friends and you guys have a very open, rounded perspective that, despite the party politics of both of you are involved with, you guys really blurred those boundaries to still be very forgiving and complimentary to one another, and still inviting people to explore their own journey with politics, which is definitely, as Isaia alluded to, a new thing that I think is specific to our generation, because when we have interviewed some older politicians, party politics is pretty much all they know. They even bring in their family story to further aggrandize their party
Which is
politics.
why you donate to me.
Right?
Yeah.
Exactly. So I definitely appreciate your guys' demonstration in terms of just the openness to have all these conversations and just include any youth that are willing to get involved so they can further develop their opinions and their self-identity, whatever that is. So thank you guys. And please, anytime you guys want to come back on, we will have you. And if you have somebody that you think you want to debate with in terms of youth,
I
we
was
will
going to
do that
say,
too.
maybe me and Isaiah should have a debate on this show. I'd love to give him a.
Without further ado, everybody, this has been another episode. Thank you for joining us of At Home with Holmes.